So, hey, anybody new on the call? Let's get some intros. Yeah, there you go. Hey, Adam Moorhead. Nice to see you, man. It's been a while.
It's been a while. How you doing? How's everyone doing? Good. I guess not expecting everyone to say hello. So, Adam Moorhead, top coder. So, run community over here with Jesse, who's also on the call. So
awesome.
Excited to meet everyone.
Yeah, and I think this is Stephen Forth. I'm new. Just very briefly, Stephen Forth, Ibica, also involved with the IEEE 1484.20.2 work on defining competencies and generally involved in the innovation space.
Awesome. Well, welcome. Thanks for being here. And who else do we have today?
And Dash Desai.
How are you?
Sorry.
Oh, go for it, Dash.
Okay, yeah, Dash Desai, the founder of smalloutside.com. I came across OpenAssembly very recently, and some of the work that's happening here is absolutely brilliant. So I've tuned in, had a brief chat with Mark, and what a wonderful initiative on the playbook. So really looking forward to stay tuned in.
Oh, thanks for being here. Hey, Linda. Oh, you're on.
You unmuted me. Hi, great to be here. My first session also, and I studied organizational design a million years ago, and nobody did it since then, I think. And I'm very interested in figuring out how to use more diverse skill sets to power the customer uses of our software, because they're missing a lot of skills. And I don't think they're going to need to or want to hire them. So I'm very interested to learn how to help bring this kind of capacity to them and to meet all y'all.
Awesome. Thanks. And thanks so much. It was so fun to connect with you, with Jerry, not too long ago. Who else is on the call that's new?
I'm new today. I'm Jessie, also from Top Coder and the Brackets Club, which I'm looking forward to talking a little bit about later today. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, that sounds good.
She is the queen of the Top Coder community. Just
I
like
know.
We're in the presence of real
awesome.
royalty here. So
totally, it's amazing. The Brackets Club is a super cool initiative, and we're going to hear about it in a few minutes. So, anybody else on the call that's new? Nope.
I'm new here.
Okay. Hey, how are you, Leslie?
Hi, good. Hi, John. Yeah, so my name is Jessie Maliaka. I work for a company called HeroX, and we are a global crowdsourcing community. I'm labeled an innovation manager, but as is the case with many startups, you just wear a ton of different hats, and it depends on what you need on the day. So I can refer to myself as a Swiss knife of things.
I love it.
Adaptable.
Innovation.
Hey, is Christian on the call today? Because I want, if not, I want you to go over the whole impact stuff you guys are doing, which would be great in a little bit.
Yeah, that's why I'm here. Christian's unfortunately man down from the vaccine, so he's passed the baton over to me, and I'll take everyone through the initiative. Yeah.
Cool. Well, let's jump in. I want to just kind of give everybody, actually, I'd love for like maybe John Healy and Ashley and Balaji and the folks that kind of were in the first cohort of the OTPCP, the coaches and somebody else have something? Oh, sorry. So just go through, let's talk about what happened yesterday. So just as a kickoff, we did our first coaches and consultant training, and a really amazing, I thought it was an amazing session. One of the things that I thought was really great that Jeff Bojar and the team pivoted to is inviting a real client in, SEI. So SEI is a member, has real objectives, done some projects, but they really want to expand open talent across the organization, and are really nervous about it, not just from a organizational standpoint, but from a reputational standpoint. But I thought it was amazing. Maybe, John, Ashley, you could add some comments from what you thought about the session.
John, I just chime right back in on the SEI piece. I think that it's really easy to get trapped into your own ideas of what you think is right and why people should utilize the open talent model. But when you hear from someone who's tried things and where they've had success, where they've had failure, how they go about constructing teams, how they think about talent as an organization, it starts really opening things up. And it takes me back. I'm seeing Mary Molino down there when we developed the empathy maps early on to start really digging into the mindset of people on the other end. And if we're going to get to a stage that we're going to teach enterprises how to adopt open talent models, we've got to begin by really understanding where they're at. So just great addition into the first cohort.
That's great. Thanks, John. Hey, Ashley, what did you think?
Yeah, and to piggyback on what John just said, I think, we went in knowing all that we knew to build the framework, and yesterday sort of not called that into question, but allowed us to think critically about who this framework is for and how they're going to use it. And so I think that sparked a conversation that I think we'll have soon about doing a persona exercise and bringing those empathy maps back in. So I just loved how, within the hour yesterday, we dove right in. We didn't waste any time and had asked, John and Steve and Brian, we were able to ask some questions of SEI that, things they hadn't thought of yet. And I thought that was really cool.
Steve, Balaji, any other thoughts?
Yeah, it was fun to dig into a client's needs to see what their experiments have come about. And I think just like our majority of our clients, what we see is all of their experiments were successful and they have no clue what to do after that. Mm-hmm. So it's not as though it's not working, it's working, but not to a scale that matters. And I think figuring out how to get to the scale that matters is, I think as a community, our next step, our next challenge.
I totally agree. I love that. Steve, Brian, any thoughts?
Yeah, I thought it was great dialogue. I thought it was interesting to see their problems, right, of where they kind of tripped a little and weren't getting the results. And it really exposed to me how complex this fitting together is. There's a lot of options in this space to go down, and there's a lot of different needs, and getting those all matched up. I really think it emphasized how important this function is, and to have consultant folks that are actually aware of how the pieces fit together and can help guide folks there. It's not just a one-off kind of, yeah, just follow step 1, 2, and 3, and you'll have a great connection. It's there's still some to go before those standards are really there, and this is a really great service to have. So I thought it was great.
Great. No, that's great. Hey, Brian, you had so many good comments yesterday and reframed things for SEI in such a great way. What thoughts from you?
I thought I was actually really impressed with them, frankly. I thought that, after working with all of us who've been in this industry, have worked with literally hundreds, if not thousands of clients. And so often you run into people who are, haven't really thought through or really even know how to ask the right questions. And so what I was really impressed with them was their willingness to be open and transparent, but also the depth to which they had already thought of the scope of the problem and what they wanted to resolve. So to me, I thought it was really, it's going to be an interesting challenge to see where it goes, because they are definitely motivated to do something strategic as opposed to a point solution, and looking at open talent in all of its forms as a way to make a competitive differentiator. And what I was also finally really, really appreciative of is that they didn't start with cost savings. They didn't start with this as a mechanism of cost savings. And although the cost savings are tremendous, the strategic import and way to really transform the business was something that they saw immediately. And that's what I'm really excited to pursue. And also, by the way, everyone in the call is just some of the smartest people you'll ever meet. So regardless, it's just nice to be around so many big brains and to feel like the dumb one in the room.
I totally agree, man. It was really, really good. One of the things that I took away too is that I agree with you, Steve. I thought that idea of like, where does this kind of, functionality lie? And I thought one of the things when I had the space, even though I've talked to SEI a bunch, they went out and have used a platform and kind of jumped into experimenting right away, right? Without kind of assessing like, what would be the right question? How might we think about, the scale of this? And then Brian, I thought your comment of asking what's scaled really well. And they said, cloud is scaled really well, with some other things like Agile haven't scaled as well as that. And so it feels like, that question, I've been calling it kind of, after you, Steve, the COSI issue, right? Like it almost seems like there needs to be inside an organization or outside the organization, a COSI-like function, right? Is it a person that could be a consultant? Is it an internal coach that can know that the way to, think about the ecosystem broader than I need a tactical solution that's cost effective, right? What does it mean to the organization in a bigger way? I thought that was just really fascinating to me.
Yeah, well, and I think that's the brilliance of what Jeff, who's on the call today, put together, right? With
Exactly.
you have to have that adapter that has the trust of at least a level of trust with the rest of the organization to kind of build up and get the ball rolling and start to implement. So,
but also an element of variation in what their interests were. So as you heard, a business executive saying, I want to transform the entire way we do business, to someone who's tactically responsible for the project saying, I don't want to lose my job.
Right.
The motivations are widely varied. And so understanding who you're working with and what the purposes are behind and filtering through that's a big, big opportunity.
Yeah, and I think, while, Steve and I and Diane, we've all kind of like run those centers of excellence. They're you can't transform an organization through a center of excellence.
Right.
A center of excellence is actually limiting when you want to think about transforming an organization, because you're saying the adapter term is like they are talking two different languages and you need an adapter. It's a short-term fix. You need to talk the same language at some point in time. So while I think, from a maturity scale perspective, if you want to move from a few pilots to, a lot more pilots, you need to make an adapter, but you also need to ensure that you sunset the adapter, and the industry and our supply side, all of our vendors need to seamlessly work with that transformation. Can't go through a narrow funnel of an adapter.
Yeah, that's really great. Hey, Jeff Schwartz, I think you're on the call. I really loved our conversation yesterday about kind of, is it a prescriptive solution, not like an agile, like a scaled agile, or is it more fractal, like creating in your experience at Geo? I don't know if you want to share any thoughts. You had some really great stuff yesterday.
No. Sorry, can you hear me, John?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So what we were talking about was the whole question that Balaji just mentioned, which is like, how do we scale really quickly? And as we're pivoting from a whole period of experimentation and pilots, and we're almost trapped in an experimentation and pilot mindset in some of these areas. And we were talking about sort of different ways of scaling. I think there were 2 or 3 ideas that were sort of central. One was, does it look like a franchise model, which is sort of everybody gets the same cookie cutter kit and everything is done in a highly prescribed way. When I think franchise, I think of, McDonald's or Wendy's or fast food. And that is a highly scalable model, but it is not a highly adaptive model. And then we were looking on the other side where the scalability is based on interoperability. And then there, the example is sort of the App Store or the Google Android Store, where the content inside is highly variable, but what's on the outside is highly standardized because of the information that you're exchanging. And we were just sort of trying to draw out that idea. And then we were looking at the degrees of freedom you have to scale. I use the example of Geo. I'll just mention very, very briefly. Geo is the 4G company that's been built up in India in the last 5 or 6 years. Part of the Reliance Group under Mukesh Ambani. It's the fastest growing 4G company in the history of the world. It was designed as a fractal organization from the very start. I was very fortunate. I was the one who helped design it with the team at Reliance. And the idea was that the smallest unit, which is called the Geo Center, there's about 900 originally in the country. There's like 30 in a major city. All had connectivity to all the other Geo Centers. And they also had connectivity to the center of operations, which was in Mumbai. And the intervening layers, just think about regions or states, for example, their job was not to approve what people did at the Geo Center. Their job was to help the Geo Centers actually get the work done. So it was an organization that was built around connectivity. So the idea is to give as much autonomy to the local centers as possible. On the other hand, it's a company that's got a common brand, a common look and feel, and all those things. And they're trying to manage both sides. So I think the whole idea of a fractal organization, the idea of a franchise, the idea of interoperability in the App Store, the Android store, were some of the models we were talking about when we're thinking about how do we scale our thinking quickly. Sorry, John, I think that was part of what you and Jeff and I were touching on yesterday.
It's really great. I mean, I think it really helps us because I want to show the great work that Mark did to put together the framework. Mark and I did that, put together the framework, but I know Jeff's raised his hand and so has San. So Jeff.
Yeah, just a quick comment. The adapter idea that Balaji was talking about, that was a deliberate for us to provide the skills for the organization to transition and to scale. And I agree that a center can be limiting at some point. But until the skills are really permeated, I think you need that center to deliver the skill sets to the rest of the organization instead of them trying to learn it on their own, and the platforms. Ultimately, I think what might get us past that is, in my feeling, we're still looking back on it as training. Like if open innovation or open talent were in HR training and project management, it became a normal thing, just part of the normal workflow. I think you could probably move away from the center at that point.
That's great. Great thoughts, Jeff. Done. And you'll see and as everybody will see in a sec on Jeff's, thinking is deeply embedded in it. So really appreciate, you're kind of the godfather of this whole movement, Jeff, and really appreciate all the pioneering work you did. Hey, San, you've had your hand raised for a sec.
Yeah, I just wanted to build off Balaji, but I guess everyone who's spoken since as well. Just slightly different perspective. I mean, we're one of the teams I'm building at Sidley. We're brought in really to sort of help accelerate transformation, and we use brand tools to do that. And one of the roadblocks that we actually kind of highlight and put a big circle around is transformation, or often within large organizations, and we work with brands, global brands. It's often held with this culture of exclusivity. And when we use words like center of excellence, and it by definition it becomes exclusionary, right? And if we think about brand tools, one of the key kind of most powerful brand tools is participation. And so I would actually sort of say, we can think about different structures, but actually at the end of the day, it's like, how do we get our entire stakeholder, our customer set, our employee set, how do we get everybody using brand tools to participate in that transformation? We found that that's critical. The biggest inertia comes from this notion that only clever people in important jobs can have conversations around whatever kind of transformation it might be. And that inevitably leads, I think, to what Balaji was mentioning, which is great pilots, but they stay that way.
Yeah, really, really good points. Yeah, thanks, San. Hey, Linda, I know you got your hand raised too. Oh, you're still. I
unmute myself. Okay. To what Jeff said, I've actually seen this work really well. It's almost like connectivity as a service organization. And when it provides service, it actually acquires all of this expertise across all the departments and services, and then it can provide distribution and cross-fertilization. But if it's not a cost center, but it's a service center, and it provides help to the distributed efforts, it then earns the right to turn around and provide a kind of connective tissue that distributes all that learning across. And I've seen that work beautifully.
That's great. Well, thanks. Hey, I think because one of the key activities yesterday in the OTPCP was to introduce the networked organization, the framework that Mark Hanat and his team out of Magenta helped create, and the folks at Top Coder sponsored. So really appreciate both of those. So let me just go to screen share and take you guys through really quickly in like 2 or 3 minutes. It's going to be a document. We've got the feedback from the first group of folks. And we'll have that we're going to do a turn on the 28th or around that. So the next version will come out in mid-June, and then we'll get it out to a much bigger group to start looking at it. The idea is how do we create a framework for adoption of open talent across organizations? So here we go. Let me just make sure. Yep, there we go. All right, so thanks to Lisht and Topcoder and Magenta for putting this together. Let me just see here, move this out of the way. So it's a clickable PDF, and the idea is to create a document that we can share and experiment and prototype. This is a beta version, and this will be at the core of the book that Jen and I are writing. So we call this kind of networked organization from theory to practice. The folks that helped create it really appreciate it, for the partners that helped get this done. And then a lot of really, great content. Really, as I told John Healy yesterday, he was really instrumental in thinking about this forward, in that, all of our lives, we really live in, as consumers, in a very crowdsourced world, right? Like, you go to Google Maps and you see all these wonderful photos across the world, you try to find something, you connect with your friends on platforms like Facebook or Snapchat or whatever. Yet in the business world, it's really hard to kind of think about things in an open way. So the introduction, we've really been using the idea of a VUCA. I know it's an old idea, but I think with COVID and everything, it's really more prominent. So the idea that there's volatility and uncertainty and complexity and ambiguity, and how do we deal with that as an organization? So just the idea that organizations are in flux. And then the framework. We built this framework around, this is all going to be clickable, so you can kind of go anywhere like here to assess, or any of the other places on the framework, and be able to click right through. But the idea of creating one framework, and what I wanted to try to do is create a very lightweight framework that's broad, that allows for other people to co-create. And there's no sacredness in what we're calling these things or how we're thinking about it. Yet just wanted to get something out to the wild so that we could start experimenting and prototyping. Again, the idea is called the networked organization, and we're really trying to build off some pillars that have already been created, whether it's growth mindset or the great work around ambidexterity. I'll go through the whole thing. So really, Jeff developed with Jen and Kareem this idea that's the implementation around the outside. And then as with Mark and the education committee, taking it even further from learn, experiment, build, scale, to assess, learn, experiment, build, scale, and transform. And then inside, kind of where you can apply that. We start with the mindset. And we were thinking about, when we first started building this idea, I love Mike Tushman's work about ambidexterity, but it's a bit esoteric. So we really started to lean into the idea of a growth mindset. And so we really built this out and applied growth mindset to open talent, thinking about how could we do this across an organization. The culture, really, San, remember when Kristen mentioned that, kind of going from a knowing culture to a learning culture. I just love that. I mean, I think it's so great. And Mark and his team dug into this, like, what are the attributes of a learning culture? And what we really discovered is that curiosity is at the heart of it, right? Organizations that are really curious about what they do are cultures that everybody wants to be a part of. The strategy, we're calling this kind of a light and fast strategy. We really think that's aligned with going from a fixed cost structure to a variable cost structure. How do you be light and fast, with the ideas of going from pull to push, or to go from being responsive, efficient, committed, and resource constrained. And then the way we look at, so this is the way we look at implementing this strategy is actually through the 6 steps we talked about: assess, learn, experiment, build, scale, and transform. So we dive into the systems. We used to call this the organizational structure, but then there's a spot in the color spectrum that's part of that as well. Really love the work. This chart's from Jeff Schwartz and Liz Altman's book on workforce ecosystems. If you haven't seen that, it's definitely, make sure you get the MIT article. Maybe Brandon, you could put that up in the notes. But really, we're thinking about how do we take the ideas that we're talking about and applying them across communications, org structure, leadership, operations, and relationships. And diving into communications, creating some steps that folks can really think about as they try to convert from being a traditional organization to a networked organization to implement open talent solutions. Org structure. One of the things we've been working on is this, Jen and I a lot, is like, how do you introduce open talent into an organization? And we really think that, starting internally, engaging with existing networks, evolving your contingent workforce process, bringing in the larger crowd, and then co-creating with customers is kind of the 5 steps in order to get that done from a structural standpoint. Leadership, we really base this work on the agile leadership that we've seen in the marketplace. I really like kind of what the perspective they have around, psychological safety and creating a vision for transformation, emotional resilience, being flexible, and then promoting conviction. And then operations. Here we're really talking about how do you create more collaborative tools to really connect not only to the internal network, but also to the external network. There's been some really great stuff that I've seen, and Jeff and I had a conversation about it yesterday. Rob Cross from Babson has done some great work around creating a tool called the organizational network analysis. But unfortunately, it's only been looked at as an internal network. And I think there's a really awesome opportunity to connect that to an external marketplace and network as well. Kind of the overall ecosystem, workforce ecosystem. And then lastly, relationships. I think from my own learning at Havas, that's where I got it wrong, right? I didn't realize that there was gonna be all this tension around internal and external players and the identity and the threat and all those kind of relational things that we needed to deal with. So, and then kind of wrap up the 10 steps to success. This has definitely been driven by Jeff Davis and Mark Hanot on some of the steps from the educational workforce at the CTW. So that's where we are right now. Next week, we'll have the glossary pretty dialed for a beta version. And then, the rest of the thing, the next step going from kind of beta to prototype. But that's where we are. Look forward to your guys' comments. We'll make sure we get that out to you in early June, and you guys can rip it up and make comments. And like I said, there's nothing sacred, right? This is all just an experiment and a place starting, but a way to, what we talked about for months is trying to get the language straight, understand where, we come together with some commonalities and also creating some structure. Hey, San, I saw you raised your hand. Oh, no, okay. Oh, thanks, man. Thanks. It's a start. So any thoughts? Sorry, I went through that so fast, but lots more to come. So, okay. Well, let's, what I'd love to do is, hey, Jesse, can you explain to us kind of the Brackets Club? I love what you guys are doing, and I think it's really plays into what the advocacy group's been doing. Kind of how do we make sure that we're focused on the workers and transforming work for 1 billion people by 2025?
I'd love to. I have a few slides to share as well.
Great.
Okay, all good. So thank you for having me today. I'm here to talk about the Brackets Club. So I'm Jessie. I work for Topcoder. I've been working with the Topcoder community for 16 years now. It's kind of the best part of the job is being able to work with the global community. And over those 16 years, I have seen a lot of things. And I've noticed the most important thing is how passionate and caring our community is. Usually for communities that are competing against each other for prizes and rewards and accolades, they're very competitive, but they're also very passionate and caring for each other. And that's what really led me to develop the Brackets Club. So essentially the Brackets Club is basically a nonprofit organization where we can raise money for our freelance community members in their time of need. So that's really at a high level what it is. It's a fund that people can donate to. So if there is a freelancer who passes away or they have a tragedy or something they need help with, we can support them with funding, some monetary support. And so I started this because there was a need for this. Obviously, the Topcoder community is a very global community, and they don't have as many resources potentially that we do here in the United States. There's not a lot of options for health insurance or life insurance, things like that. And so it's very expensive to do things like that as well. And so when we had some issues within the communities, some actual examples of this, the community came together, but there wasn't really an official way to support that. It was very hard to do that internally. And so I figured the best way to be able to do this would be to do it outside of Topcoder and create this organization. So this really matters to me and to everyone in online community. So this is not just Top Coder specific. This is for any online community freelancer. And it's really important that we give them some way to get support if they need it. And I just want to share a few examples. So one example is Gerald from the Philippines. He was one of our Top Coder designers, MVPs. He passed away last year. And the first thing that happened when he passed away was I kept getting messages of, we want to help. How can we help his wife? He was a freelancer full-time, didn't have insurance. How can we help his family? We want to donate money to him. And so, you know, he meant a lot to our community because he was very gifted, really fun, just a really, really good person. And everyone wanted to help him. And so they came together on their own and donated money to him. And that was just so powerful to me because I wanted to be able to help them and do this with them and give them that opportunity. But it was a lot harder than you would imagine to do that. And so once I saw what happened with Guy, I knew that there was really a need for this because so many other examples have happened like this within the community. And we have tried to help and we have done it in a very unofficial way. But having an actual fund where people can donate money to, and then we can actually help would mean a lot to these families. And Guy's wife was just incredibly touched by the money that they donated to her. You know, it's really important to her. He was such a huge part of our Top Coder family. And so that really meant a lot to her. And then another example was even longer ago. We had one of our Indian coders, Humble Fool, passed away. And he was probably the most talented Indian competitive programmer of his time. And to this day still. And he's a legend basically for Indian competitive programmers. When he passed away, we organized an entire competitive programming match in his honor, where we had a number of donations come into his family. You know, we raised money for him because the members they really liked him. He was such a great role model for them, an idol for some. And so we at Top Coder were able to help his family through the donations we got. And so it's people like Humble Fool and Guy who, you know, and that's just a couple of the many who've had, you know, some tragedies within the Top Coder community. I'm not even sure how many we could have helped, you know, in the past for all communities. So I'm really excited that we have an actual way now to collect money to help these freelancers globally. So what we provide is the ability to give freelancers to donate to each other. As we've seen time and time again, they're not just competing against each other, but they're building long-lasting relationships, and they're also helping each other and cheering on each other. So we're giving them the ability to go and help each other by donating. They can join the actual club and do monthly donations. And of course, they can nominate others to receive funds. So if you're working on a project with somebody and you know, oh, they had an accident, they can't work for 3 months, or, you know, they passed away, we need to help the family, they can nominate these freelancer community members to get money from the Brackets Club. So how it works is anyone can nominate a freelancer. All they have to do is just confirm that they are an active member of the freelancer community. And we do properly vet, you know, everybody that comes in. And then myself and the board of directors, we determine who receives these donations through the nominations that we get. So here's why I'm here too, because I do need some support. Most importantly, I would love to share this mission. This is a great group of people that are on this call, and I'm grateful to be here today to be able to share this mission, and I need to get it out there even more. There's a lot of freelancers, especially now during this pandemic that's still going on, that could use our help. We're looking for donations, we're looking for corporate sponsors, we're looking for partnerships, and of course to share that mission and promote our cause. And that's the biggest thing I could get out of today, is just getting it out there, the word out there. And so if you would like to connect with me, please feel free. If you have any other questions, you want to check out the website. But I'm really excited about this initiative. It's really near and dear to my heart, and I look forward to.
Thanks so much. I think this is part of the you know, creating the advocacy mission of transforming work for folks. And just to make sure we're clear, it's not just top coder community, it's any community, right? Any freelancers.
Correct. All freelancers.
Right. That sounds good. Hey, Brian, I think you had a question.
Yeah, I have a quick question. It's one on Jesse. I think it's really great, and it highlights a need on so many levels to one, supply services, but also feel some collective experience for people who are living and working in an isolated manner. But are these tax deductible? Is that like a 503c organization? I mean, in terms of, and that's something that's going to be a real important consideration for a lot of
Yes,
folks.
it absolutely is. It is a 501c3. Yep.
Okay.
Great. Thanks, Jesse. That was really awesome. Really psyched that the community's doing so well. Yeah, one more question. Hey, Matthew.
Hey, Jesse. My name is Matt. I work at Fiverr. And my question, we see this a lot. We see a lot of, crowdfunding sources for freelancers that need help. Does Topcoder actually put into the fund, or is this all freelancer funded?
It's both. So I'm looking, Topcoder is a corporate sponsor, and I'm looking for people like you who would also like to be corporate sponsors. So please definitely connect.
Yep.
As I said, I want this to be for all freelancer communities, not just Topcoder. It's very important to me.
Yeah, connected. Cool.
Is there a way to make this a little bit more contractual to say, can we say when we're signing a contract with Topcoder or something to say 5% of our fees could go to a fund like this to support, so that it doesn't become a transaction to transaction, people make individual choices versus, there's a ton of fund flow going to individual companies, including Fiverr, to say, I'd like to add, it's like a 5% tip that goes every time on default, right?
That'd be amazing.
Great
Love that.
idea. Yeah, maybe Jesse, you could get together with some other folks from other platforms and just really, figure this out, because I think we would definitely support it. Whatever the community wants to do, we're fully in support of it. That's a great idea, Balaji. Thanks so much for that.
Thank you.
There's another cool initiative that HeroX is doing. Desi, I want you to talk through the impact initiative as well. So are you on the call?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay, good. Can you take us through the impact initiative?
Absolutely. Alrighty, so I'll also share my screen. So what I'm going to show everyone right now is our very MVP landing page, which we created. And what I wanted to talk about today is something that's also very near and dear to my heart. And we've named it MVP name Impact Initiative. That is still in the works. We haven't decided if we're going to go with that name ultimately. I personally think that initiative is a terribly difficult word to spell, so we might be shifting away from that. But regardless, for those of you who aren't familiar with HeroX, we were founded on the belief that no matter who you are, no matter what your background, no matter where you are, you can solve some of the world's most complex and important problems. So what we do is we connect innovators, problem solvers with the problems that they were meant to solve. So you can always think of us as a marketplace for open innovation. And we've been super successful with this, with that side of the business for about, I believe we were founded 6 years ago. And we now want to really lean into the nonprofit side of things and really start to give back to the world at large. And that was the basis of the Impact Initiative. And what it is it's an in-kind grant model program, very much modeled after the Google for nonprofits and Salesforce nonprofit programs. And what we're going to do is we're going to give eligible nonprofits free use of our platform and associated services, crowdsourcing services for free. And the intention is to really just enable nonprofits to lean in to using open innovation and crowdsourcing. We truly believe that this is a way that nonprofits can add to their tool belt and really start focusing on already enhance their ability to solve deep-rooted problems. I don't come from the world of nonprofits, but through my research, a lot of what I found is that a lot of the work that goes into nonprofits is fundraising and using the money that they earn from fundraising to solving problems. Obviously, that's the way it works. But often it's just, a lot of solving the immediate kind of need. So if you're trying to solve hunger, the first thing that your money goes to is feeding the hungry. But there's not a terrible lot of money that goes toward solving the underlying problem of hunger. But we believe that crowdsourcing and open innovation can lead to solutions to solve those things. And by giving nonprofits a platform and service, free services, we can help them overcome the barriers of, maybe solving those problems and really getting their foot in the door to actually make a huge impact beyond what they're already making. So it's still very MVP. We've spoken to a few people about it. We've spoken to a few nonprofits. We've spoken to a few partners, because the bigger picture is for it not to just be HeroX and nonprofits. We want to bring in a wealth of partners. We want to be able to create an ecosystem where nonprofits can join the program. We'll be there to support them with getting projects off the ground and giving them all the crowdsourcing advice that they need. But the chances are that what they need maybe goes beyond the knowledge and expertise that we can provide. And that's where our partners come in. We want to be able to match them with partners who maybe can provide something different to what we can. I really just want to create this, flywheel of value within, the world of open innovation, and ultimately really help them just create a massive impact. We truly believe in the idea. We think that it's going to be able to do great things. And there's a lot of still answers that we're trying to figure out, but I like figuring out those answers and working with the uncertainty. And I really just wanted to bring it here to, show it to a few, really bright and enthusiastic people, get feedback, and really see how we can actually create a really successful and impactful model here, or impactful project here. So I'm really open to connect. I would love to have more one-on-one in-depth conversations with people. I've dropped my contact in the chat, and I'm also happy to forward any some of our MVP collateral after this call. So let's connect, and I'd love to collaborate and make this even more powerful.
Great, thanks, Desi. Really appreciate it. I think there's some hands up. Brian, you got a question? Thanks, Desi. Really appreciate it. I think there's some hands up. Brian, you got a question?
Oh no, I didn't. I had my question answered. I should have taken it down.
Sounds good. That's awesome, Desi. No, really appreciate it. Another great example of doing good work and really trying to use the tools that we have to really do things bigger than just being profit motivated. Any thoughts or comments, Hassan? I see you got your hand up.
Yeah, not a question, an offer. Desi, we built a similar platform, open innovation platform with UNDP and Hyundai, and we're getting some really great traction right now. So I'd love to connect you with that team. It's fortomorrow.org, where we're finding, just last week or a couple of weeks ago, we had a chap in Wales who just kind of came in literally off the street with a device that heals the polar ice caps. And it's just like literally somebody who just landed on our platform and has built the technology, is looking for support. So we've connected him through the platform. He's now connected with Cradle, which is Hyundai's venture arm, and they're helping him implement hydrogen technology so that these things can actually travel kind of distance with very light batteries and start healing the North Pole. I mean, it's crazy. Like what you're tapping into is just the sheer talent and ability of every human being on the planet, whether they are in a privileged position or like this guy is, in Wales and, in a rural area and just not only has an idea, but has a solution. So love to connect you with that team. So fully behind what you're doing.
Absolutely. Thank you for that, San. That's awesome.
Yeah, thanks, Desi, for sharing that. Really excited for that, for not just for HeroX taking the leadership, but also for the whole community. Just a really good thing, and I really appreciate your leadership there. All right, we got about 3 or 4 minutes left. Anybody have anything? Sorry, that's been kind of jam packed and not a lot of discussion today. Really appreciate you guys taking your valuable time and listening to me and to Jesse and to Desi today. No thoughts? Everything good? No, Todd, you don't have anything to say?
I love it. This is amazing.
Oh, good.
I have a question.
Clubhouse, right there.
Yeah.
I have a question. Show of hands. Would you attend an in-person event this fall in Boulder, Colorado? Or would you prefer virtual?
You flying me over from Canada, Brandon?
Exactly.
All right, that's just a quick data point I wanted to get. So thank you.
Right. As always, love this discussions. Love you guys. And it's amazing what we're kind of the momentum we're all creating together, and just really, really appreciative. So give me a shout if there's anything that I can be doing, or OA or CTW can be doing to facilitate, it's the high tide, right? That helps all boats float. And anyway, have a great weekend and enjoy some kind of time. I think that things are, at least here in the States, things are abating from the pandemic, and people are pretty anxious to get outside and move around. So I hope it's the same where you guys are as well. All the best.
Thank you very much.
Thanks everyone.
John. Thanks, team.
Thank you.
See ya.
Bye-bye.